Hi, Momentum participant and members. I'm Margaret Collins. I'm the founder of the Center for Creative Economy, and we're here today for our second virtual Momentum Meetup. We're so excited that you could join us. With me today, I have our Events and Marketing Coordinator, Shelby Newsom, and Kayla Norris, our Operations and Community Development, and also on the call is our new interns, Logan from Duke University, who is actually with us in today, and Frank, who is sheltering in place in Connecticut. And we're so grateful that the whole team is here or working together this summer. I will say, I want to put a big shout out to Flywheel. We are in Studio 8 at 500 West 5th. They have created a beautiful studio where you can broadcast remotely from room D in Flywheel. So we're really happy that could be part of it today. So one of the things so I want to welcome all of you who have never been to a Momentum Meetup before. Thank you for joining us virtually. And this is a great experiment for us at the Center for Creative Economy. We realize we can help our messages can go out further than just the Winston-Salem and Triad community. So welcome, glad you're here. One of the things we do every week, every month is our members share what's new with you. So I'd like to just open up the time because this is generally we have networking at the beginning of a Momentum event. So everyone's chatting and talking, we're having lunch, but obviously it's different today, but we still want to do that sharing because there's a lot of things going on and we like to allow some minutes at the beginning. So Shelby, you want to open it up so we can see this?
Yeah.
Okay. So who's got something new they want to share with the community? I know Miles McKellar-Smith does, so I'm going to call on Miles. If you want to unmute yourself and share. Miles was in our Kinetic boot camp. He just graduated from Kinetic, our boot camp, and Miles, share with the group what's happened to you since then.
Absolutely. I'm glad this is actually my turn to say this. Hi everyone, my name is Miles McKellar-Smith. I'm a recent graduate from UNCSA's MFA filmmaking program. And I recently received a grant from them, the entrepreneurship grant, to fund my project, Create Artist Network, which is a creative enterprise that I've been working with CCE and the Kinetic Boot Camp to try to push towards launch. And now we have some funding to move into beta this summer. So I'm really excited. Thank you again for Kinetic and everything that I learned there. It was super helpful.
Great. So we're giving you virtual applause. Great for Miles. Yay! A little applause. Thanks. Who else has something to share, like progress made, and not the panelists, not you guys yet, but progress made during COVID, or just you're still in it, you've got a new client, or you're just anything you want to share. We'd just love to hear from you. This is a little bit of networking.
I do.
Hey, Eileen, hi.
I decided to exploit the pandemic.
Eileen, give your name and the name of your organization.
Sure. My name is Eileen Rowan, and my organization is ASWAP LLC. ASWAP is spelled AESWAP because it's Ann Eileen swapping up 16 channels of story content and inviting subscribers to swap up their content, which feed in so that we have a full-on collaborative storytelling platform. And what I've done is reached out through contacts to get a network of high school actors from across the country who are busy recording audio selfies, selfie diaries in character, and doing short films and doing things with their friends. And it's been really lovely. So that's where I'm going. And so I have product that I'm developing without any cost to me and providing a service and growing a base of ultimate subscribers.
Awesome, that's great. You're developing your content and your customers at the same time. That's wonderful.
And I have to say, I would not have been able to get anywhere near this far if it wasn't for Kinetic. And customer interviews that I did, which made me realize just how much of a market there was for the swap content of the site. And it also gave me the courage to reach out to people.
Okay, I'll pay you later. I'll pay later. Okay, who else has something they want to share? Laura. Hey, Laura. You might need to unmute yourself.
Yes, I did. I just unmuted myself. It took us a second. Yeah, so I haven't been with you for probably about a year. I'm a freelance content writer and copywriter and copy editor. And most of my clients, I almost never work with anybody local. It's, you know, I haven't met most of the people I work for, but anyway, it works out fine. But when I need a website, I was getting pretty frustrated. First of all, I thought I could do it myself, and I didn't succeed. Over time, I found that I didn't succeed. And I also wanted a host that was local, even though you don't need a host that's local. I wanted a host that's local and to probably just kind of take care of some of that stuff for me. So the good news is that we have in town somebody I met through one of these meetings, Andrew Hewitt, who has Yo Digital, YOH. And he's great to work with. It's not done yet, but I just really like his professionalism and his business sense. It's very straightforward. It's, you know, anyway, I'm enjoying working with him. I feel confident that I'll have something that better represents what I do, that I'll feel happy about linking to whatever email I send. So.
Well, that's great. That's great news. That a Momentum member and two Momentum members or former members are now connecting and working together. That's awesome. That's what we hope Momentum can be, is a platform for sharing and connecting. I think we want to go on into the program. Thank you for all of your, keep your good news, and we'll go back to that at the end, but we just don't want to get too far behind on our program, because we've got three amazing panelists with us today. So, opportunities. We want to give a quick shout out for some things that are going on for creatives and entrepreneurs in our community. First of all, the Greater Winston-Salem, the former chamber, has grants available right now. They're up to $5,000. If you have 1 to 3 employees, you can get $2,500, and 4+ you get $5,000. I checked yesterday, and there is still money available. They are still accepting grants. So if you're interested, you have to be a for-profit. This is only for for-profits, but go ahead and apply if you are, if you want to get some grant money. They're really interested in trying to keep small businesses going. Also, every Tuesday, we have Voice of the Entrepreneur. Ellen Younger, who I saw on the call, leads us in that effort, along with Magali Yacine. And it's a wonderful, he brings in great speakers every week around the community. It's kind of particularly addressing the COVID-19 dilemma we're all in. And last week we heard from the health department, the gentleman who's Joshua Swift, I believe, the head of the local health department. And next week it's Senator Paul Lowe, the North Carolina Senator Paul Lowe. So it's an hour, you come in on Zoom, you can eat your lunch. It's great that it's a little bit comforting. You can kind of get a sense of, this is what our communities, we're all wrestling with this together. So that's Voice of the Entrepreneur.
Margaret, just in case anybody looks for it on social media, it's called Hour of Empowerment.
Oh, sorry. Right.
It's all right. Voice of the Entrepreneur is something else cool that we do from time to time, but the Tuesday event is Hour of Empowerment. And if you look on social media, Facebook in particular, you'll see how you can connect.
So Kayla will put it in the chat. So sorry,
Thanks, Alan.
It's been a blur. We appreciate that. Getting our studio set up has been a big deal here. We just tried to get all our details in place. Also, every Thursday is Virtual Venture Cafe. That's today, and tonight at 5 o'clock, Rick Leander, who is one of our mentors, will be speaking. He was invited to speak out of the Virtual Miami Cafe, Venture Cafe Miami. So he's going to be a speaker at 5. I'm sure there's other great speakers, but I just happen to know about that one. Also, we have Virtual Marketing Outside the Box. That's every Wednesday at 12:30. So that'll be next week. And then our next Momentum Meetup, we're going to have a social. So Maybe we may be clinking glasses online, but we're going to have some fun activities for you at our social. So just put that date on the calendar. Okay, so velocity.
Oh, sorry.
Come on, Shelby. Come on. Stay with me. All right. So the big news with CE is that our applications for Velocity are open. This is our Creative Business Accelerator, and we are really excited about it. We have found that there's a real lack of inception stage business training. Creatives are overlooked, and we are continuing with Velocity. This will be our 2nd year running Velocity and our 5th year running an accelerator. This is a chance to power up your business. I hope you all that are on the call that know about it will please share the opportunities with other creatives that you know, because it's a really good time to get serious about developing your skills. We want everyone to emerge from this crisis bold and ready to succeed. Velocity is basically a 9-week accelerator designed for creative entrepreneurs. All 3 of the panelists on this call today have been through our accelerator, so they would be probably willing to share some information about it if you like later. We have 30 mentors that work with us throughout the process, so that's what really deepens the learning. We do have a high impact curriculum that really focuses on targeting customers, understanding your value, and developing a business model. But we do customize all the mentoring. So, you know, now we say this is the new now. As we've experienced this great pause, it's now the perfect time to focus, learn, and cultivate to power up your business. And I just want to challenge you, you know, you all are entrepreneurs, you're innovators, you're creatives, and entrepreneurs thrive in disruptive times. Look around you and see the problems that exist. And you're going to hear from some of our panelists today about things that they've discovered during this COVID-19. You can use your skills to innovate and be creative and design and fix real world problems. So I'm going to turn it over to Shelby, and she's going to talk about the,
I'm going to switch the camera. Hello, are you able to see me? Yes. Hello, everyone. So again, my name is Shelby. I'm the Marketing and Events Coordinator, and I want to let you know about some info sessions for Velocity that we have coming up. So on the 28th, we will be having an info session, as well as June 2nd. Kayla, are you putting? She already put them in the chat. That's my girl, Kayla. But yeah, please, if you want to learn more about Velocity, sign up for one of these info sessions. We also have some on-demand info sessions if you're interested in learning more about it. Or you can just contact us, and we're happy to jump on a Zoom call, the phone, whatever, and answer any of your questions. But the application is closing on June 7th, but you can visit velocity.cctriad.com if you want to learn more. Thank you. Okay, so momentum. In October, we launched a new website for Momentum. We rebranded from being called Swerve to Momentum. And we have this really cool website now. It's really interactive. You have the opportunity to create a profile that really shows your skills. You can add your social media links. You can add your work. If you're looking to hire somebody or if you need help with a project, it's really a way for us to stay connected outside of our meetups that we have once a month. So if you want to check it out, of course, please visit momentum.cctriad.com, but we want to make sure, you know, you guys are getting a lot of value. So we're going to be pumping up the content on there and even asking you guys to help us come up with some content that you can share as well. So if you want to check out the website, I suggest you should. It's really cool. So we have to chat about the membership. Every year we have 8 meetups like this where we have speakers come in, and then we have 2 socials. So it's 10 events, and it's a chance, you know, for all of us to stay connected and build this creative community. And again, with the membership, you're able to have a profile that is yours and that you can share. So the access to the speaker slides and the video recap. So all members receive the slides that the speakers present with, so you can use that to reference from and keep in your back pocket. And we are recording all of our Zoom sessions, and then when we meet again in person, we'll be recording those as well. So you will have access to that if you can't be with us in person that day. But we have student pricing, individual and business. All you can have a monthly membership, or you can just upfront pay annually. So students are $6 a month, or you can pay annually $49. Individual is $12.50 a month, or $125 annually. And business memberships are $30 a month, or $325 annually. And with the business membership, you can have 3 people who are actually a part of that membership. So if you want to learn more about it, please visit our website, or let us know if you have any questions. We couldn't do any of this without our wonderful, amazing sponsors. So thank you to Parsec, Team Hauser from Action Coach, our friends at NC Idea, and of course, Flywheel for this awesome studio space that we are working in today.
Okay, thank you, Shelby.
Of course.
That was great. Any questions about anything on the webinar today, just please put them in the chat. Just go to the bottom of your screen, hit chat, and Kayla will be monitoring it and making sure that we answer it, or the panelists answer it. So I am going to kind of kick us off now. We have got some amazing women here today. This is the Power of Women Day. And the way we got to this topic is CCE is actually celebrating 9 years in business. And as a founding director, I really know how starting and sustaining a business can be really extremely hard. Each spring we mark CCE's birthday and remark, how much we really truly value founders. And it was this year that we decided we were going to really celebrate people that have founded creative businesses and let's put a spotlight on them. These women have all had the persistence, passion, and guts to birth a business. And it is no coincidence that many of the successful founders that we work with in creative industries are women. Women exhibit these traits, persistence, passion, and guts in spades. So today we celebrate founders, those who have persevered the trials and tribulations of bringing a product into the world. So I'm going to first off, I'm going to introduce each one, and then they're going to give you like a 30-second, 1-minute spiel about themselves, and then we are going to go through a series of questions that will help illuminate more about their journey. So first off, I'm going to introduce Jenni Earle Hopkins. So Jenni, would you like to just introduce yourself and just tell them a little bit about you?
Okay. I'm Jenni Earle Hopkins. 2.5 years ago, or almost 3 years ago, in July, I founded a company named Jenni Earle, and we make hand-dyed bandanas, but more importantly, they serve as talismans of bravery and courage. And so we hand-dye them all. The cotton is grown and milled in the South. That's the whole hyper-local production is important. And then they all have mantras on them that kind of help you like tie that courage on, or carry it in your pocket, or tie it on your bag and go out and kick ass. Our whole why is about inspiring courage and authenticity.
And I have one today too. Can you see me? Okay. So I'm going to show you the coolest thing about a Jenni Earle bandana, and mine says "Be brave," I think, right?
Yep.
Brave. Be brave. You pull it on, and it becomes your instant bandana. And we look like bandits going into the bed. But you know what? My glasses don't get fogged up when I wear this bandana. It's really great. I can breathe through it, and it smells great. It doesn't smell like a bandana. Sorry, it doesn't smell like a bath. So they're multi-purpose.
Yeah, we have several ways to tie it to protect yourself, and it is that like high quality cotton. So 2 layers of it, and you're good to go.
Yeah, it's very easy to wear. Thank you. Okay, Beryl Young from Momtography.
Hello. So yeah, I'm Beryl Young. I am the founder of Momtography and now Teentography, which we're going to get into a little bit later. We are a photography education community, but we are so much more than that. Our mission is to help families be more creative, find their community, and find confidence in their day-to-day lives from behind the lens of a camera. And I miss you all down in Winston-Salem from Velocity. I'm up in Northern Virginia. I'm in the Washington, D.C. suburbs, and I live here with my husband and my 9-year-old daughter.
Well, we miss you too, Beryl. You'll have to come back and visit when it's safe to do so.
I'm going to.
Okay, great. We're going to hear more from Beryl. And next, I'd like to introduce Karen Cuthrell from the Feeling Friends.
Hi, everyone. A pivot for me is we're no longer the Feeling Friends, we're the Feelings Company.
The Feelings Company, sorry.
Yeah, and it is a cutting-edge educational company that we create products that deal with social emotional learning. We teach children how to identify, express, and manage their feelings. Our why is that we grow children emotionally stronger in the early years, and that's who we are.
Great. Thank you. Could everyone hear Karen? Okay, good. All right, so now.
What was the name of your company again, Karen?
The Feelings Company.
Feelings Company, thank you.
Okay, so we're going to now talk about the early days of, kind of what the origins of each of these companies, what actually drove our founders to start. What drove you to start? Why do you do it? And what is the passion behind creating your business? And I'm going to just start it off because I have a real passion around this. Is that the creatives are overlooked when it comes to resources. And originally, this whole company was based on training and helping creatives to be competitive. There's a whole lot of economic activity in the creative economy. It's now 800+ billion, but few resources to actually activate it. So as we developed our path, we really discovered a lack of the inception stage business training for creatives and artists. So creatives create the services or short-term projects, but often lack the skills to build well-rounded companies with solid business models, financial planning. So we can assist creatives to embrace their identity. And what the pivot really happened with us was we were working with design, marketing, entrepreneurship, and an idea which eventually became Momentum. And then in 2011, I founded CCE and took all of these programs that we were working on at the Piedmont Triad Partnership as part of CCE. And as I researched organizations throughout the country, I found there was a whole group of people working in creative economy. I went to a national conference, I met them, and we actually created a coalition across the nation called the Creative Economy Coalition, which grew to about 60 people. At that point, I was invited to enter entrepreneurs into an international creative entrepreneurial contest called the Creative Business Cup. It still exists today. It's an international competition every year. And we have local winners, US winners, and then every country competes with their creative entrepreneur. So if you all are interested in entering the US competition for the US creative entrepreneur this year, we will, I assume they're going to be doing it again. I haven't heard lately, but I got to go to that. And I got to go because we entered a Winston-Salem based entrepreneur, and that entrepreneur won the US Creative Business Cup and got to go to Copenhagen to compete for the International Creative Business Cup. So we had to raise a lot of money for that opportunity. And I went around to business leaders, to all kinds of individuals, and people were really excited about it. They were like, yes, we'll give you money to help an entrepreneur from our community to go internationally. So I was really emboldened to think that creative entrepreneurship was a pillar that CCE could base its mission on. And I began to really hone in on that over the next 5 years. Shortly after that, I met the leader of Creative Startups because she was part of our national movement. And I took on the challenge of bringing that program to Winston-Salem. So it's been a building process until in 2019, we launched our own accelerator and branded it Velocity, as we've been discussing this. But I could not have done this alone. I had interns from the beginning of CCE for the first 4 years. And then in 2015, we hired our first part-time staff person. And then in 2019, we moved our staff to full-time. So now we have 3 full-time staff. We still have interns that support our work. We usually have at least 1 and fortunately 2 sometimes 3, but at least 1 or 2 per semester. So this is my journey has been, it was a solo at first, but it has grown, and we now have staff and interns, and I definitely could not do it alone. So that's my little origin story, and I'd like to now turn it over to, who's next? Let's see. How about Karen? Give us your origin story. The Feelings Company.
Yes. When my origin story is when my daughter was sick, she was diagnosed with depression. I was a stay-at-home mom, and I had taught her all the words that a pre-K should know, a kindergarten should know, and a first grader should know. And so I was kind of shocked to realize that she didn't have a feelings vocabulary. And so I went back to the curriculum and realized there were no feeling words in the curriculum that children should be learning. And the team of doctors said, you've got to get her to talk about her feelings. And I asked them to give me something, and they had nothing to give me whatsoever. So I knew that I had to help her learn how to talk about her feelings. And what I knew, she liked music, she liked stories, she liked characters. And I just combined those all with feelings vocabulary and created the Feeling Friends. And these characters with this music and these coloring books gave her the vocabulary and the confidence to tell me how she was feeling. And it worked her through her depression state. And when I went back to work, DC Public Schools, I realized that children there, I was in human resources, so I got to visit a lot of schools. Children there also didn't have the feelings vocabulary and could not express their feelings. So I worked for years, and then I came home to Winston-Salem and launched the Feeling Friends. Started out at Small Business Center with Alan Younger, moved to creative startups. From there, I did a little bit of Venture Cafe, and Venture Cafe took me to Winston Starts, where I'm housed now. And the perfect pivot that we've done during this time is that school is out. So I'm at the point of where I'm supposed to be selling things right now, but I can't. So in this time, I'm creating new products, digital products for online learning, and a new product called the Little Feeling Friends for the 0 to 3 market. And that's about who I am. We just keep growing every day.
Great, thank you, Karen. That's exciting. We'll want to hear more about your pivot in the later part of the program today. Okay, Beryl, share with us about your origins and why you do it, and kind of what's changed in your product and services over the course of the few years you've been doing it.
Totally. So we are actually going into, I think, our 10th-ish year in business. I have always called myself an accidental business owner. Kind of like Karen, I came out of the world of education. I was a classroom teacher for years and years, and thought that I was going to be doing that for my entire life. And in 2009, we had a tragic loss. We lost our first daughter when I was 20 weeks pregnant. And so that was this traumatic experience that I turned to photography. Like every parent, when they're having their first baby, wants to be able to take amazing photos and capture memories. And I had taken into a love of photography. I got my first fancy camera then. And once I had the loss, that was when I kind of dove headfirst into the photography, started to learn everything I could. We have a 9-year-old now. So once she was born, I started to explore, like when I was on maternity leave, what could I do with this? And that was how Momtography was born. I tried the traditional portrait business. I didn't like it. I realized I was meant to be in education. And so fast forwarding quite a bit, we developed programs, we did local classes, we went to online courses. As my daughter got older, I was a hot mess of being in all different directions. I tried life coaching, and when I got to Velocity last year, it was all about business model. Who are you? What is your grown-up business going to be? How are you going to scale? And so I feel like it's been this, I've been like the queen of pivots. I came to Velocity and I was like, in-person experiences are what we love. That's what we're gonna do. And pivot number 1 was coming to Velocity and deciding we were gonna build these in-person photography clubs for moms to come meet up and get confidence behind the lens of a camera. And now COVID happened, and pivot number 2 is I'm returning to my roots in education and now doing photography education for teens and more broadly families. So yeah, that's the short version of a long story.
Okay, great. Well, that's wonderful. You really shared a lot with our group. And I want to say bravo on keeping your hair so beautiful during the time when no one
Right? The
Yeah.
roots are here. There's glitter.
No, I don't see, well, you had it positioned perfectly. You can see any roots. That was the best news when my colorist called last night and said, hey, I can get you booked for week after next. I'm like, great, I need it.
I have not been since we closed 3 months ago. So this is what it's done.
Okay, Jenni, share with us your origins and what have you developed and how changes that you've made since the beginning.
So I feel like I've been working on this business since I was a toddler because everything I've done in my life and everywhere I've worked and everything I've learned have kind of culminated in what this particular business is. But I had a pretty great childhood growing up in West Virginia, lots of, creek playing and building with things. And my grandmother taught me how to sew. I went through and did costume design as my major in college. And then I've started like 3 or 4 different companies, but never really knew how to run a business. So when I met Margaret, she was like, you obviously have, I was doing all sorts, kind of this hot mess, like all over the place. I can do this and I'm doing that and this and that. And she told me to focus. So going through a major depression and tumultuous time in my mid-30s, I climbed out of that on this foundation of listening to my authentic voice got me to a purposeful life and feeling like myself and honoring my voice and what I'm supposed to bring to this world. So I dug really deeply into like how good I'm feeling and then what made me feel that way. So I went back in my life to wonder if there's any like object that helped me feel brave and confident as a kid, and it was my grandfather's bandanas. So I thought if I could do a mantra-based bandana company, I could hand dye them. So that's what I mean. Like I've been working on it forever. I learned to sew when I was a little kid and then learned to hand dye stuff in graduate school and then figured out how to like price and read margin charts and make spreadsheets and stuff and figure out how to run this business. So we are, we're in over 300 stores now across the country and Canada. I only sell 12 bandanas at a time, 12 mantras. I take away 2 and add 2 each spring and fall, and then we do limited runs. We have just added a larger scarf called a wild rag. So yeah, I've built, yeah, that's what I have on.
Oh, I want to see. Oh, I like that.
And it has embroidery. It's our first, like, there's printing and shibori technique and embroidery. So it's just a lot of fun, like hands-on making, which I think is really confidence building. And then the community that we're building online and really connecting to people who are trying to live authentically, that it like encapsulates the whole. So we haven't changed. I think that's one thing that surprises people about the business. They're like, you're still just making bandanas? I'm like, yes. There's lots of people who haven't heard about it yet. So not a lot has changed since I started this 2.5 years ago, because I was so certain about the why. And I think the path, like I do more wholesale than I thought I would and those kind of things, but I've just held very steadfast to the purpose of the company, and it's going pretty good. Oh, and we have 4 employees now. I used to do this right back here in my kitchen, and now we have a studio, and yeah, it's going good.
That's great. That's great. I'm excited that you expanded to the scarf, the larger format. That's great. I knew you were thinking about it. I hadn't realized you'd done it. Cool.
Yeah, it's super soft.
Cool. Okay. Okay, so any questions from the field so far? Okay. If you want to put them in the chat, that would be great. Just let us know. But we're going to now move on to the journey, because the journey is what makes these women be able to talk in such bold terms and to be so confident in what they're doing, because they've had a lot of hard knocks. They've had to face people in their lives and in their communities that didn't believe. They had to raise money. They had to get out and sell when it wasn't, no one knew what a bandana was and what a feeling friend was. I mean, they knew what bandanas were, but they were like, well, why do I need to buy that bandana versus one that costs twice as much and has a name on it, you know, has a slogan on it. And the photography, obviously, everyone thinks they can be a photographer, so why do I need to hire Beryl to teach me? You know, it's like, so you have to come up with these things that you believe in so innately and so strongly that you can then go out and be the voice for your business. So we're going to get into journey now, and I want you all to address what challenges and victories you've found as a woman, a female founder, and kind of some of the difficulties. Like everyone says entrepreneurship is lonely, and you have to, you know, it's isolating, and what that kind of impression, what does that do on you and your family, and maybe some traits from your childhood that you can look at and say, I look back and I know from second grade, it now makes sense. The way I was, you know, on the playground, I had an epiphany, whatever. Just some kind of like, let's dig a little deeper now about the journey. And so I'm going to start because I can, and then I get mine out of the way. So I'm going to do the women's role. I'm often one of the few women in a meeting. Now, as I've become more of a leader in the community, I find that the role that I'm being asked to play is to represent not just the CCE, but entrepreneurs and creative entrepreneurs. And so I find that the advantage is that if you are able to articulate your position and stay strong, then you will be heard. There are a lot of disadvantages because there aren't that many women who can help you in your journey, because there's not as many women leaders, but we're going to change that. We are changing that by this very panel here today. I particularly face this in fundraising because there's really a good old boy network that exists, particularly in this community, and people give to people that they know, and you have to learn how to work within the system. So I invite people to be on my board and on my committees and on my staff and my team that know how to help me navigate these waters. So if there's what I've found, if there's an area that you are lacking in or not as strong in, then bring people around that are better or good at that area in that arena that can help you be strong. So so I've had some success in fundraising, but we're really building toward a sustainability goal now, and we must keep on building it. I find with the environment, it just really takes time, and you as the sole founder have to put in that time. And often it is at the expense of your family. You don't get to spend as much time. They don't get to spend as much time with you, and you don't get to spend as much time with them. And I find that goes in waves for me. When I feel it's gone too far, I pull it back, and I have a check-in with my family, and they tell me the truth always. And it's hard to hear sometimes because I know that if I just put in, you know, these 2 more hours, then I'm going to be caught up, and then I won't have to do this tomorrow. So it's a gut check all the time, balancing the time it takes to run a business and your family and your obligations. As far as my childhood traits, I was determined. I was going to make it. I was going to be the first cheer trombone player. I was going to make A's. I was just always determined. I was goal oriented, and I had to finish the task. You know, I wasn't always. I mean, that was in my mind. I always had to finish the task, but I didn't always do as well as I wanted to, but that was I'm a determined person. And I'm going to ask this question at the end of everybody. We want to ask, what's an important tool that you use in your business that you feel is invaluable for your business? And if you and I find that we have weekly staff meetings with all three of us. That really kind of settles us for the week, and our interns are invited if they're working that day to be part of it, and it really gets us set for the week, and we keep a good agenda. Thanks to Kayla and Shelby, they keep it all in writing so that we hold ourselves to those things that we say we're going to do. We put deadlines on them, and then we do our best to execute to that. And then we also have weekly touch base one-on-one with me and the individual staff members, and I find that that's a really good opportunity for them to share things that they're working on that they wouldn't have wanted to share in the staff meeting, or just problems that they're having, and just things that come up. So that's how we're navigating the waters at CCE. And we've also got a new CRM called NEON, Customer Relation Management System, at NEON, N-E-O-N. And Kayla did an exhaustive search for this kind of software, CRMs, and she came up with NEON, and we were really happy with it. It's really keeping us organized. We're learning how to use it more. So that's me. So that's CCE. So I'd like to turn it over to, let's see, who wants to go first on the entrepreneurial journey? Let's see. Jenni, I'm looking at Jenni. So, all right, Jenni, you kick us off with your journey. What challenges and victories have you found as a female founder? And tell us about the loneliness and how you cope with dealing with your family.
Yeah, I think there's kind of there's a double edge to all the, like, victories can be challenges, challenges can be victories. I have found a lot that people don't take me seriously. So I come to them, even like our first cut and sew house, I went and said, here's what I want to do. I want to make hand-dyed bandanas. They're going to be this size, and they jerked me around over and over. They sent me different fabric on one order, and I was like, no, this is different fabric. Oh, no, it's the right fabric. I'm like, no, it's not. Like, I don't know if it's an all women thing or if it's a Southern women thing or what, but it's like women have to prove themselves when they're going into a business arena, where I think men walk in and they say, I have this idea and this is what I want it to be. And they're like, yes, sir. So that's been frustrating. The victory of that is that, like Margaret was saying, you stand your ground, you articulate what you need, you are very serious about what you're doing, and over, I have been able to persuade people that I am serious. This is a real company. It's funny, you can see their eyes change when I'm like, oh yeah, so we're in 300 stores, and they're like, oh, because it's like when women start talking about business, they hear it's a hobby, and I would love for that to change. I don't know. Did you hear that noise? Okay, so lonely. I'm not a type that gets lonely. I have 2 children. They are with me a little bit less than half the time. They're with their dad a little bit more than half the time. So I'm kind of introverted, but also I have always been my own best friend. I highly recommend to entrepreneurs to be your own best friend. Like, make yourself laugh, dance around. Spotify can really fill up a room with good vibes. So I think the loneliness that I feel as a female founder, especially now that I have a team around me, is that all the decisions, like where the rubber hits the road, that is on me. So the loneliness of not being able to be like, what do you think? I do ask my team their thoughts, but at the end of the day, if we're investing in a new product or we're going to a big show and spending thousands and thousands of dollars, that has to be my choice. And so whereas I am learning to trust myself on the business side of things and trust that I have good instincts, that's the part where I'm like, oh, I wish I had somebody, but I don't. I mean, ultimately, I would like to make the decisions myself. And then another challenge, Margaret brought up fundraising. I haven't raised any funds. I've tried to. I've come to points where I'm like, okay, this would be great to have an infusion of cash right now. And I've never gotten really far. And I think it's that the 2.5 years, I wasn't beyond 2 years yet. So people were a little hesitant. The female thing, I think, plays into that for sure. I think a man sitting in my position with the sales that we've had and the margins that we have, I think would get funded. The closest I got to funding, the second like long meeting with an investor ended in him offering to give me the money and then fly me on his private jet somewhere, so he and I could just have some serious talks. And so I'm like,
you also
damn
want
it.
to take a big percentage of your company too.
Yes, and take a big yes, take an unreasonable percentage of my company, and thinking that I'd be like, okay, yeah, that sounds great. I want to get on your private jet, and you can rob my no. So I think there are challenges that women face that are different, but people like Margaret are helping us know our worth and stand our ground, and other, Karen and Beryl, like seeing other women trudge through. I've finally have my first female mentor at Winston Starts, which is super exciting. She is a marketing person, like a very high-end brand strategist, fabulous product woman. Her name's Julia Townsend. And it's so exciting to me to have an older woman business mentor, and she's really up in my game. One of the family parts that have been challenging, and that's a being taken seriously thing as well, and believing that I can do it. The victory of that is that now that I have done it and continue to do it and continue to grow, my children, who are now 13 and 15, know for a fact that they can build a life that they dream of. Like, I'm paying a mortgage, I'm taking us on vacations, and they have been there since the beginning. So they saw me cook and dye up in the kitchen, and now they come and they're really proud of the studio we built. And we're in a studio with other artists, Kat Lamp, who's on this call, and they see her building her business. It's just really exciting to me that they have the awareness that I didn't as a young person, that you can start from an idea and pay people and pay yourself to work and live off of your dream. So I think that's super exciting. Entrepreneurial traits in my childhood. One of my earliest memories is dressing up all the other kids in my neighborhood and having a fashion show. So I have done this for as long as I can remember, and I've always had opinions about how other people should wear their garments on their bodies. And then tool or a business, tool or routine in your business we couldn't function without. So we also have a Monday morning meeting, which through the COVID times has been very grounding and brings us all together. I mean, it has been on Zoom. We had our first outdoor where we brought little camp chairs and sat in a circle outside this past Monday when we were like, human connection. But I think the thing that really defines the culture of Jenni Earle is accountability and hustle. So we have it written on the wall, accountability and hustle. I am not a person who cares if you make a mistake. I want to know about it so we can correct it. So as soon as, like, that's something that you hear in the interview. It's like, if you make a mistake, I want to hear about it immediately. We'll figure out how to fix it. It's that same mistake over and over that becomes a different conversation. But we don't have time to hide mistakes and find out about them later. So I really instill that. It's like, show up with the ugly, because we're growing so fast and trying things and, trying stuff that maybe doesn't work. Like, let's just get it all, lay it on the table and let's figure it out. And then the side of that is hustle, where I might ask you to take the trash out. I might ask you to write a PR script. I might, you know, like we all do all different kinds of things. I'm constantly in there vacuuming and sweeping the floors and breaking things. So I think I'm modeling good mistake and fix it behavior. So yeah.
Great. Thank you, Jenni. That was awesome. That was great. You can see her growth, can't you, from the beginning of the dyeing the cotton in the vats. I remember seeing all that with the mom and your friend Jan coming in. Everybody was dying, and then now you go to her studio and she's got all these people helping her.
Yeah.
It's quite amazing.
We were doing like in a pot, just a chili pot, 6 bandanas at a time. And now we do 75 bandanas at a time in an igloo cooler on this like rack. It's awesome.
So it is really hand dyed.
Yeah. I mean,
that is the truth in advertising thing. Yeah,
the green. I did a greenish blue last night. You can kind of see the hue still in my hands.
Okay. Well, let's go to Karen with the Feelings Company. Karen, share with us about what is your challenges and victories as a female founder, and some of the difficulties you've had along the way, and some of the traits maybe that you feel from your childhood that has brought you to being the entrepreneur that you are.
I think we've done a lot of the challenges, Margaret, when we talk about not enough women business leaders to model behavior for us and fundraising, with African-American women, at one time, a year ago, less than 2% of 1% was ever raised by African-American women. And the average amount that was raised was $36,000. And so when you look at that and you're trying to launch a business, that's nothing. So I was very blessed to be able to raise more than $36,000. That gave me the opportunity to develop my Feeling Friends kit. I went from a stuffed plush toy to a Feeling Friends educational kit because I spent time in the schools. I spent times with my customers who are educators, parents and educators, and asking them really, what do you need for social emotional learning? And it's on the bloom right now. And spending that time and doing a lot of focus groups, listening, and just planning and executing, we came up with a kit. And it has been the absolute most wonderful thing for teachers at this point, because right now, that is my customer. It's been the most wonderful thing because we're changing and impacting children's lives. We're giving little emotional intelligence at the early age. That's basically what we're doing. We're teaching them how to talk about their feelings, how to treat others, but really dealing with their own emotional intelligence. And so in looking at all those things that have been challenged in me, I can sum up a person when I meet them very quickly as to what their level of emotional intelligence is. When it comes to fundraising, when it's coming to not enough business leaders, all of those things, time, I can really sum that up. And when I look at that, the other challenge for me in Winston-Salem has been a trait that I learned early on, and it was one of the 10 Commandments, thou shalt not steal. What I've learned in this melting pot down here, that a lot of creative ideas are yours, but then they end up being taken on as someone else's idea. And that doesn't sound really nice, and it really isn't. But I found out that a lot of times people that aren't creatives have difficulty creating their own things. And in that way, that has been one of my biggest challenges here, of just keeping my information until I really, really launch, because I'm in research now. And really, really launch very, very close to me. So you won't see me on a lot of social media posting, because this past year I've been in a research phase. A very great research phase was giving me the documents to say that we're evidence-based, we're research-based, and we're classroom tested, and the Feeling Friends systemically moves children social emotional learning meters and helps them become the little people that they should become to go to 2nd grade. And so that trait, the 10 Commandments, I go back there all the time, thou shalt not steal. It's very important to me here, because I see it happening all the time with creatives and their ideas. Once again, it's their idea, but then someone else blossoms from it. What I use as a tool that's regular that I cannot do without is just a basic whiteboard. A whiteboard. When my team understands we're launching a new idea, we have ideas, we need to research something, we take it to the whiteboard. Some people take it to the street, we take it to the whiteboard. And by the time, I have whiteboards all over my space at home. By the time we finish up taking it to the whiteboard and doing all the research that we should done, we usually come out with a great product that is something that can be used around the nation. And that lonely piece, the reason I developed the Feeling Friends is the trait that my daughter said that she was lonely, a sign of depression. So we just create characters and that children give us the words for. I don't feel very lonely because I have about 90 feeling friends to talk to at all times. So I really don't feel lonely because I always take it back to my why. Why is the why? What is my why of what I'm doing? My company's why is to grow children socially, emotionally stronger. My personal why is to make sure that I leave the world emotionally better off than I found it. And so when it comes time, anything that's happening in my life, any challenges, fundraising, any of those things, anything that happens, I just take it back to my why. And when I take it back to my why, as I tell people, I take it back to my who gave me my why. And I'm very confident that God gave me my why because this is my personal mission. And so I'm good. I'm good. No matter what happens, I'm good because I know there's a bigger picture and I'm on my own why journey.
Wow, that's great. Thank you, Karen.
You're welcome.
That is so grounded. That is so, you've come such a long way and you're doing it. You're not giving up. That persistence really pays off.
It does. It does. But take it back to your why.
That's it. So Beryl, tell us about your journey, your challenges as a female founder and the way it's all come down for you with your.
Yeah, so I'm actually going to bop back to my childhood because I grew up with a very entrepreneurial father. He was in government consulting, so not a very creative field. But then I grew up with a very creative mother who was always dabbling in calligraphy or artwork, or she taught fitness classes for a while. And so I, at a young age, I don't share this much actually in my entrepreneurial story, my origin story, but I was diagnosed with arthritis when I was 5. And so the things that kids would normally do, go out and play and do active stuff, I didn't do that as a kid. And so that throughout my childhood, that's this thread of not always being super confident that has flowed through into my work. And it's been interesting to see how okay, I got this creative thread from my mother and I resisted the entrepreneurial thread for a very long time. My dad would, tell me you should go to college and go to business school. And I'm like, nope, I'm going to work with kids because that just feels like the journey that I should be on. And so it's been interesting as this business has unfolded. I, at this point, am fully self-funded. And I think we sometimes bring into our business the thing we either most need at a certain time in our lives, which has been kind of echoed here, or the thing that we most, we teach the thing we most need for ourselves. And so even though we teach photography, it's all about helping moms and women find their self-confidence and find a hobby that they can enjoy while they're raising kids. And the loneliness for me actually didn't come from business itself. I was able to find communities of mom bloggers or entrepreneurs that were doing interesting things. I worked with photographers for a while. So I found those entrepreneurial pockets, and photography and creativity can be a woman-centric field. But I got to a point where, they were doing those businesses, a lot of my friends, as side hustles. And so that seriousness in business was I really see that this can scale and I want to do that, but there's not a lot of people like me, working moms or stay-at-home moms with a side hustle that were doing that. And a lot of my loneliness came in the motherhood journey because I was building my business when my daughter was 6 months old to now being 9. And like you were saying, Margaret, there is that oh, if I just put a couple more hours in here, it'll be okay. And we have those same conversations within our family too. Am I working too much? Do I need to connect? But then finding mom friends or being able to have that like social circle outside of my work, that's where I faced the most loneliness, because a lot of my mom friends just didn't get it. They also saw it as like, oh, you're doing a nice little hobby, but no, this was like the thing that was also impacting our family. And I had to wrestle with that. Well, I wanted to leave teaching to be a stay-at-home mom. I wanted freedom and flexibility, but I really had to wrestle with that. Like, well, no, I'm not a stay-at-home mom. I'm a working mom. And how do I set like boundaries in that space and get the childcare that I needed, and actually figure out, when am I working on my business? When am I going with friends? And so there was a little bit of that period of loneliness during that stage of my business journey. And then as far as like schedules and routines and stuff like that in the business, for a very long time, I was a solo entrepreneur. I think somebody was asking about building a team in the questions, and that was hard for me. I think one of my very first coaching conversations when I came into Velocity was with Marianne, and she was like, you need to get out of your own way and build a team. And so we've been putting together like those strategies for how do we do this, because my team is entirely remote. And so we've had to find ways to connect and engage and interact. And the tools that we're using, like I wanted to be like, well, I'm using a camera, duh, that's the most important tool in my business. But we use Slack as our channel to interact as a team. And we do have weekly Zoom call meetings. But the thing that's been really helpful is we all get together in that once a week, but then we're not seeing each other in the day-to-day. And I am being really conscious of hiring women onto my team. Most of them are moms working on the fringes of their day. And so we've started a check-in and check-out process in Slack, where they check in at the beginning of the day and tell us what their plan is and what they're working on. And then they check out at the end of the day and tell us what they accomplished, which helps me, being the CEO and wanting to keep things moving and in control, to know what is moving along and how we need to kind of shift or pivot or tweak things along the way.
That's a great idea. Love that. We started out doing that, didn't we? I don't think we.
There's some days when they're like, oh my gosh, I forgot to check in or I forgot to check out. So we're not perfect, but it's been really helpful for all of us.
This is great. I think we're going to pause a minute and let's go to the questions from the, there's a lot of good questions in the chat. And what we'll do is we'll take those questions and then we'll wrap this session ends at 12:30, and then we'll just wrap the last, we'll do like, 10 minutes of these questions, and then we'll wrap with each of our, the new now. What have we done to, where are we headed, kind of thing.
Shelby, do you want me to ask? Eileen asks, how did you get from I to we, meaning build team?
She just answered that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anybody else want to add to that question?
Yeah, I have something to say about that. I waited way too long to move to a we, in my, not only in actual physical human helping, but also in my brain, like the way that I approached the business. I named it after myself, which then it got very confused because Jenni Earle, I'm Jenni Earle and that's Jenni Earle. And, but once I put it out of myself and then was able to get someone in to help, like I would hire like on a project basis, or if you have like this particular thing, there are people, like we have a team member who works 2.5 hours a week. So there are people who will help with, like Margaret was saying, bring in people, like fill in the gaps that you're not good at. I totally say yes, like figure out the things that you are really good at. And the things that you're not good at, get somebody else to do them. It will elevate your business.
Great, thank you.
Laura asked, should anyone want to address it? Is making and meeting financial goals?
Making and meeting financial goals. Anybody want to talk about that?
I can talk about that because I struggled with this a lot. I came into Velocity at a very like rock bottom point with financial goals. I hadn't been hitting my financial goals for a while. And part of that was coming back to business model. What is your business model? Going all in on one or two things instead of splitting my focus in a million different directions, but also asking myself some of those hard financial questions of what do I need to do? I was a creative. I didn't really enjoy looking at the numbers. And in the last year and a half, I've learned to fall in love with the numbers again, and the numbers tell a story and you can be creative with them. But it really came back to those two pieces. What is your business model? And looking at that compared to the financials. And I did that over and over and over again during Velocity. And I went, whoa, I have too many products. Like keeping track of this is really difficult to do. And so now I have that roadmap. I have the financial roadmap. I have the business model roadmap. And I've had to make some hard choices. Am I self-funding this? And how am I doing that? Am I taking out loans? Am I asking family and friends to help fund the business? Or am I taking on investors? And like still right now today, we're saying, nope, we're not gonna go after investments. We're gonna self-fund this, and just getting creative and resourceful in what those solutions are.
I think the goal is do your numbers, do your forecast. Do not shy away from it. Don't give me the bullshit that you're creative and you don't know about numbers. You know how to add and subtract. So put together a budget. How much is it going to cost to produce your thing, and how much do you need to spend, and then live up to it. You just have to finally just be serious about it. You can't ignore it. You can't hide it under the rug. And I love that you said I love my numbers. That our mentor Shui from Singapore, that's what she always said. You're gonna love your numbers. You're gonna love your numbers.
But there was a lot of money shame that I don't even think I realized I hadn't dealt with until I got to Velocity. And so it was almost this unraveling process of having to learn to love those numbers and deal with that money shame as well.
Yeah. I mean, it may not be what you want it to be. It never usually is. But the harder you work at it, the better it'll get.
Yeah, and there's a thing too about when you're first starting out, it does feel like you're just guessing. Like I think that was a barrier for me too when I was first starting out, going, I don't know, I'm just gonna guess. Maybe we'll make this, maybe we'll make that. Like margins is something you really have to dial in. So your pricing is solid, but that making and meeting financial goals does feel like guessing at the beginning. But then as you start to gather data, like I do a dashboard every week and look at what we sold retail, what we sold wholesale, what custom designs did we do. So, and then you start to see a pattern and the guessing becomes more informed.
Great. Karen, you got any thoughts on that?
I think you have to love your numbers. It's just love your numbers. I look at my numbers every day. I look at my bank accounts every day. I go in and see what money I spent. Was it cost of services? Was it for supplies to see? Was it payroll to see exactly? And I just look at them to see what can I do better? How can I make sure that I'm not wasting money? I went so long without money as self-funded. So now when you get money, you look at it and you see, how do I make the best use of my money to make sure that I am growing and not ending up where I was before? So it's learning to not be afraid of your money, not being shamed with your money. You know, at this pandemic time, this is my sales season right here, and my first real sales season, and I can't sell a thing because school districts aren't taking costs. They don't know what their funds are going to be. They're not taking calls. And so I am looking at my money every day to make sure that I have enough to sustain myself till we get to the point of where we can sell. Do not be afraid of the numbers. That's what I can say. You can't be afraid of the numbers.
All right. Good answers. Y'all are awesome. Okay, another question.
From Mona King, how are creatives, especially women, finding their way to a seat at the table without being considered aggressive?
I'll start that one. You don't find yourself to the seat of the table without being aggressive. I had a partner in Winston Starts who sat in the same space with me, I would be called the angry Black woman, and she would be called the aggressive woman. And so, and the only thing, we would say the things the same way. We ask the right questions, but it's hard to find a seat at the table without being labeled those labels. And it's not, we're saying nothing more than men are saying. We're just making sure that our voices are heard. So it's virtually impossible in this city, it has been for me, to not be called aggressive, angry Black woman and find my seat at the table when I speak up for myself.
But that hasn't stopped you.
No, it hasn't. No,
You
it hasn't.
speak up.
I sure do.
That's good. That's good. You have to speak up. You do.
I think letting go of the need to feel unaggressive. We're trained that aggression is, or perseverance, or whatever those tactics are, how they're viewed is unattractive, and like, who cares? If you have something to say, say it. If it isn't heard, say it again in a different way. Try to let go of the labels and just speak honestly. If you deserve a place at the table, then go sit at the table. Who cares what people label that activity? We all need a little bit more ambition in us.
Yeah, great. Love it.
I was going to add also humility. Make sure you're at the right table. And there are going to be some tables that are not for you, and that's okay. And then also for me, team building has really helped with that. Finding those people on a project basis that have different skills or different areas of expertise for me. They've been able to help me, like, especially as we're working with organizations and brands and finding influencers, someone that already has that experience that's done that. She's able to go, this is how you write the email. This is how we're going to do it. And she has helped me start that process and loops me in when I'm needed. So having somebody else to help find the right tables and the right seats has been invaluable as well.
Right, and I would just add to that, you do have to speak up and be aggressive, but then listen, you know, and don't have your armor on so deep that you are perceived as not being receptive to the information that comes back. Because sometimes you're going to get an answer that you don't like. So then you have to kind of go, well, let me think about that. And sometimes you are able to, in the moment, respond directly and quickly, or you might need to think about it and then come back another time, you know. And a lot of times, what I learned my days in New York is your job begins when the customer says no. I mean, that's just it. When someone tells you no, that's really when that tells you a lot. It's really good to hear a no, because then you go, oh, well, they probably weren't my customer, or maybe they are, but they didn't, or I didn't tell it right. I didn't tell my why so that they believed what I was doing, you know. So no's are great things to so embrace your no. And then someone else in the chat said, failure's good. Don't worry about failing. Was that Jim?
Yeah.
He said, I need to leave pieces. Remember, failure is okay. Yeah. We all fail. We all kind of mess up sometimes.
Yeah, nobody's business is for everyone. You got to find your people.
Right.
Yeah, it's just
Right. Okay, so should we go to our wrap up, or did we answer all the questions?
yeah, I think that's it.
Okay.
In the
All right, so now we're talking about the new now. So I know you all have alluded this, but if you want to take it a little further, is what lessons have you learned during COVID-19? What's next? And if you could touch on a little bit about how often are you in touch with customers? Because that's one of the through lines that we try to really focus on in our programming, is make sure you are speaking to customers. So if you could just give us that and maybe some advice for entrepreneurs. I'm going to start with Karen.
How often do I speak with customers?
Yeah, so what have you learned? Tell us about your pivot and a little bit about what you've learned during the COVID. How often are you speaking to customers, and what's next for your business?
I pivoted during a research phase in COVID. The research phase was the piece that was going to, when I submitted it to Cuthrell, I was going to get their endorsement for a social emotional brand. So that was very hard for me to swallow. We saved some of the research, some of it we didn't, because when school was out, teachers could no longer test their children. But we were able to save some of the research. And in doing that phase, I had to also create a remote learning plan for teachers as well. So I talk to my customers every week. And it's amazing because they're going through this with me. And that's even more. I used to talk to them twice a month, but now it's every week because we're trying out new things, making sure that their children get what they need. Before this, I had 2 focus groups with teachers right before this one, this call. And so in doing that and talking to them every week, we're really have designed something that is really, really great. And we've pivoted in that some of the information they gave me from this research year that we're going to already implementing next year as well. So talking to your customers is very important. They need to know that you're there. They even said just a note from me or a sign that tell them they're doing a great job is one of the things that need, because teachers lots of times can't take monetary gifts, but they take things like you're doing a great job, thank you. And so I make it a habit of talking to my customers to make sure they get what they need. And they're also feeding me as well.
That's great. Yeah, because the feedback's great. And then you know what direction you're going is true, or you need to adjust and tweak and pivot.
We're having to pivot today on some things, and based on them using the product for a year. And we're going to pivot. You have to understand the power of the pivot. The power of the pivot is wonderful. You have to understand it's not personal. You're just making a pivot for your business. And so you can't take it all very seriously. You just have to do what's best for your business. And once again, tie it back to your why.
All right, that's a good one. All right, Beryl, tell us about your pivot and what have you learned during COVID?
Yeah, so we launched our clubs in January, had a founding member launch for 12-month memberships and got 73 members. But we knew we were talking to our customers and they wanted options for monthly memberships. And we were kind of working behind the scenes in March to figure out how we were going to do that and when our next launch was going to be. And then when I came back from a conference in March, I went to an event with my daughter. It was a fine arts fair at our local middle school. And then that was so much fun. We brought like a pop-up photo booth. We were talking about momtography and the opportunities that our clubs provided. And the next day, schools closed. And one of our ideas, me and another local momtography club leader, we were gonna run a test of a 4 or 5 week in-person kids class at my studio. We weren't planning on doing courses for kids. That was like in the 2 or 3 year plan down the road. And then I knew like, we're not going to be able to do this course for kids. We're not going to be able to do a lot like the clubs, a lot of the things we were planning. And I went, I wonder if parents are craving something for their kids. Like moms are not in a space where they want to spend money on themselves right now. They are concerned about their family and protecting their family. And so I just used my personal Facebook page and said, if I did a 2-week virtual class for teens and preteens, would you be interested? And this is the importance of like my customer is within my social sphere, and the amount of response we got was overwhelming. And so very quickly, I didn't have the curriculum created, but it was in my brain. From being a teacher, I had done an after-school club for kids like 7 years prior when I was in the classroom. And I was like, all right, we just need to like figure out how to make those programs virtual. And we very quickly had to just like find the technology solution that was gonna work to bring these kids online and have them go do it. And we priced it really reasonably. Let's just test it and see what happens. And we had 89 kids sign up for this first virtual teen class. We did a second one and 89, and then we did a second one and had 80 families sign up for it, which has really pushed us in this direction of getting our teen stuff out into the world. We're going to build a teens club alongside our mom club when it's ready to launch again. Our summer virtual program, which was just supposed to be for moms, is now virtual at-home summer camp for families. And yeah, and we've now been getting requests from organizations, from teachers, like, I want to use this curriculum with my students. And fingers crossed, we've had the Communities and Schools organization submit for approval to buy our curriculum resources. So we know that there's a huge opportunity for our curriculum to start to go out into the world. So that's been our pivot, and it's been a little bit of a roller coaster and exciting. But yeah, it's kind of crazy.
Sounds like you've been really busy. Gosh, you and Karen.
And I'm really glad I built that team, because I wouldn't be able to do this by myself. I have five contractors that are all really smart women that have taken a lot off my plate. So I can just be teacher and visionary.
That's great.
Yeah.
So why don't you put your URL in the chat, so if people want to explore that for their momtography or teentography, and all of you all should. Karen, you know, because everyone might want to follow up with you guys if you want to put your contact information in there. If you want to. Jenni, Earle, tell us about what you've done during COVID. What's next for your business? How are you kind of going out into the world right now?
Yeah, so we had a very fortunate thing that happened. We delivered our biggest custom design to date right before we went into lockdown, or like actually, I mean, I snuck out to deliver it over to Waynesville, North Carolina, to this luxury hotel. And that gave us the capital to really just turn all of our attention to community support. And we made YouTube videos on how to tie bandanas at a mask, and I made all these like coloring pages, and we were just like, what can we do to support people? They're staying home. What's that look like? They're working from home. Like I started this business at my house, so I would get on and just do like IGTV, like, okay, here's some tips. Wear sweatpants, like do the self-care thing, but also like a shower really does change your mindset. Just silly things like that, just talking way more. Like I said, I'm introverted, so I don't naturally just like get on the thing and make the videos, but our social media storyteller was like, this is going to be really powerful in this time. So we kind of upped the access to me as the founder and all of our blogs. Anyway, so what that did was up our Instagram engagement. We've gotten a lot of new followers. I had time to finally build a Pinterest, and Kristen, our social media person, there's like thousands of people coming to our website from Pinterest. I'm like, who knew? So being able to let go of the like income for a minute and not have that as a pressure, as an immediate pressure, we were able to just turn attention to community building, which we've always talked about doing, but never had the time because we were too busy making stuff. And then what that has done is now our engagement and our website traffic is up and our sales are great. So that allows us now to, with more website traffic, to try out some products in small runs. So we're actually going to like test some line extensions through the summer, since we're getting more people doing that. So it's been a funny kind of path, but it's been good. The other big thing that we've done in our business is I'm not great at systems. That's one of my weaknesses. So having to only have 1 or 2 people in the studio at the same time, we've built some really strong systems in that, like, the person who's coming in to dye needs to know exactly what they're dyeing and how many, and then the person coming in to iron after them has to know which bandana this is to put the label on it, right? So we've actually really upped our systems game, because the person leaving, wiping down everything and leaving, the next person has to come in and just know what's what. So I think that's been really helpful. I wrote down, because I wanted to say on the question about having a seat at the table, that aggression is also like, you can use the mindset, and this is something I tell myself every day, clear is kind. You can get your point across without being mean about it, to just be direct and clear. And that to me is the best form of kindness. So advice for entrepreneurs is to really believe in yourself, even if nobody else does. Keep trying, like, just start. A lot of people say that they wish they'd started sooner, that's like a big thing with entrepreneurs you hear. I wish I'd just done it sooner. And even if you can start on a small level and just try stuff and see what works and what doesn't, but to get out there and do it and learn and then dust off, get back up, try again. It really is the people who keep trying and stick with it that I think succeed. And you've seen in this panel, you know, starting from emotional hardship and really turning that into a challenge and the bright spots of our lives. I'm humbled to be part of this crew.
Well, we are glad to have you and Beryl and Karen. Thank you so much. This is a great opportunity. Don't forget, you all can get your Jenni Earle mask, and then you can wear them out in the community. I will say that lessons learned from CCE is that we are resilient, that we can run our programs virtually or in person, and we are learning things from both sides, and we're learning how to help our creative community by going virtual. And we appreciate your being here, and we appreciate your telling us, asking these hard questions, and it's going to give us some good food for thought on other opportunities. And I would also suggest that we've learned that you just have to go ahead and lead. You can't be afraid. This is not a time to be in a hole. You just got to keep up with your work, got to keep doing it, and to remember to communicate. Don't stop responding to emails, you know, remain in this world. And it's really good to open relationships and to find new pathways. I've developed some great new friends during this time in my work life. It's been colleague friends, you know, it's really been very invigorating. And this challenge is helping us all, because we have to continue. We can't hide, so we just have to continue and become stronger leaders.
Yep.
So thank you. We appreciate all of you. We will be back next month on June 23rd, and we're going to have it'll be a fun, it's a social, so we'll have to put our heads together. I hope you'll all join us for that. Yes. And we love you. We think about you. Come back. Take care.
Bye,
Be
guys.
safe. Stay healthy. Bye.